This is an important distinction, and I just want to make sure that this is clear. What I'm basically saying here is the section where Ptolemy talks about the issue of aspects is within his section on signs. And this is also where he talks about things like commanding and obeying signs, the signs of um, the summer portions, the spring and summer portions of the year, and the fall and winter portions of the year. And he's basically talking in this whole section about different qualities of sign. And it is within that rubric that he's talking about aspects. And so what I'm saying here is if you have a whole sign house system, then what this idea of aspecting is implying is whole sign aspecting. So if you have Venus in Taurus and you have Mars in Virgo, it doesn't matter the degrees. There is still a trine between the Taurus and the Virgo. And so putting it that way, what I want you to notice is that the focus of that statement is actually on the signs, Taurus and Virgo. It's almost as if the idea of it being Venus and Mars is secondary, because this quality of aspect within this Ptolemaic description is basically an intrinsic quality of the signs. Now, this idea of aspecting as being an intrinsic quality of the signs will break down shortly when the concept of aspecting shifts from this whole sign approach to an orb approach where only a portion of the sign is considered to have the greatest influence. Now, this idea of an orb and of the idea of uh, a degree area as being the primary emphasis is rather like the same shift that occurs in the production of the quadrant house systems to begin with, in that what the shift is really saying is that the astrologers were beginning to see that there are certain points within a house or within a sign which represent a focal point of strength. So the idea that was essentially behind the quadrant house system, we could see as being logically equivalent here, that the cusp of a house within a quadrant house system was supposed to be the focal point of the energy within that house. It wasn't so much the beginning of it as the focal point of it. And it was this idea of the focal point, which is why you had the later medieval 5-degree rule or 753 rule, where, for example, you'd allow 5 degrees into the 12th house or 7 degrees into the 12th house to represent that still that house system, so that a planet on the 12th house side could still be considered angular, just as a planet on the 6th house side of the 7th house could still be considered angular. It's that whole idea of a cusp as a focal point. Here, when you go to thinking about aspects as being between planets and not between signs, now you can start to see the quote exact aspect, the exact degree of the aspect as being the focal point of the aspect. And so this is a change, that you have a focal point of the aspect between the planets and then an orb of influence where that aspect is still occurring. But this is really the shift to thinking of the aspect as being planet-based and not sign-based.